Got your student visa sorted? Great. Now you must be planning and preparing yourself for your travel to Australia. There are plenty of things for you to do before arriving here in Australia, and luckily we have got this video where we are discussing a lot of these things that you need to be preparing for before you arrive here in Australia. So if you're ready, let's get into the video. We are starting off with the first section, which is about documentation. I'm sure you would know that there are some documentation you need to bring in order for your arrival here in Australia. Starting off with the basic one, which is passport, which we unfortunately can't travel without these days, especially when you're traveling overseas. So coming to Australia, you need to make sure that your passport has a validity of at least 6 months, because having a less than 6 months of a validity on your passport is an issue. Obviously, you might have already got your student visa sorted, so that's not an issue, but try to bring a printed copy of your student visa as well, just in case if something goes wrong. Also bring your COE, confirmation of enrollment, which is issued by your educational institution like your university. Overseas student health cover, which you need to buy before arriving into Australia for the time you will be staying in Australia, and if you have got a certificate from them already, so make sure to print it out as well. Your educational certificates, which you can also bring the certified copies of it as well, or you can bring the originals as well. Ideally, you should be getting a travel insurance as well, although it's not compulsory, but it is recommended if you are traveling overseas, especially if it's for the first time, you might like to get it. And here's a quick tip: if you have a credit card back in your home country, chances are that some of these credit cards actually do have a free travel insurances. So make sure to check that out if you have a complimentary travel insurance on your credit card. If not, then you have to buy. But again, this is not compulsory, it's an optional thing. And also prepare a document where you have a list of all the emergency contacts, such as your family members, your university contacts, the contact details of your friends here, or if you have booked your accommodation, then the details of your accommodation. I would suggest you not only to have it in your phone, but maybe print out a document where you have all these emergency contact details in case you need them. And imagine running out of battery and having no way to contact someone. The next section on our list is regarding accommodation. I know it's coming ahead of all other things, but it's such an important topic that we need to discuss ahead of everything else. Because right now in December 2024, Australia is going through a rental crisis. Now it hasn't just started in December 2024, it has been going on for a while now, at least for the last couple of years. And for the people who are arriving here in Australia, it is important for you that you book your accommodation nice and early. If you're struggling to find accommodation, then I highly recommend you to check out Amber Student. Amber Student is a one-stop platform for finding accommodation and booking accommodation for international students. You can book your accommodation before arriving in Australia, close to your university, without much hassle through this platform. Amber Student handle everything on your behalf, from flexible lease terms to secure your booking through their platform, even when you're still overseas. And they also have a 24/7 support services as well, which means if you need some help, you can reach out to them. Now, we have been suggesting Amber Student for a while now. They have been an amazing partner with us, and many students have booked their accommodation through their platform. And to be honest, we haven't got any complaints from all these students who have booked through their platform. So that's why we highly recommend you to check their platform out for finding the accommodation. Again, the link will be in the description box below if you would like to book through your accommodation with them. And thanks again to Amber Student for sponsoring this video. At the moment, local Australians are finding it difficult as well to find accommodation here, let alone the people who are coming from overseas, have got no references and have got no rental history. It is a huge challenge for people to find their accommodation. So my suggestion will be to book your accommodation nice and early, even if it's for a shorter duration. Try to get it done before your arrival. You will also need to provide your intended address here in Australia, especially in this document, which is incoming passenger card. When you're arriving here in Australia, you need to provide your intended address. Obviously, if you're coming to a friend or family member here, that shouldn't be a big issue. But if you have got no person that you know here, then you will need to know at least your accommodation address. Now, there are different type of accommodations available here in Australia: on campus, off campus. You have to decide which one is right fit for you. Obviously, both of them have their pros and cons. On campus means on the university campus, where you will be living with other students, both locals and internationals. And there are a lot of specific events happening for students usually in these sort of accommodations, but they are usually on the expensive side. However, some students also like to choose off campus, which means you can find accommodation outside the university campus. They're usually cheaper than the university accommodation, but they're usually further away from the university as well, which means that you may have to pay for transport and other expenses as well. And when choosing your your accommodation, location is very important, whether it is close to your university or close to their part-time work. You will have to consider your budget as well, how much money you are willing to spend each week, and where is the location of your accommodation. Again, it's close to university, close to work, it's better usually, so that you can avoid the transportation costs. Now, moving on to our next section, which is about traveling. The most important thing for you will be here to book your flights. It is going to be one of your major expense when traveling to Australia. So booking your flights nice and early will always be a good idea. And obviously there are plenty of platforms where you can search for your flights. One of the most popular one is Skyscanner, where you can look up for flights and you can sort out the flights based on the pricing as well. When booking your flights, it's important to note what sort of baggage allowance is available for students. Some airlines may offer an extra baggage allowance for students who are traveling to Australia. And there may be some student discounts available if you are planning to travel to Australia. We've got a really good article on our website where we talk about some of these airlines offering student discounts for international students. If you would like to know more about it, check the link in the description box below. Apart from that, you will also need to book your airport pickup. If your friend or family member is picking you up from airport here in Australia, great, you might be able to save some dollars. But if not, then you have to consider how you're gonna travel from the airport to your accommodation. Some airports in Australia do have a public transport where you can take a bus or a train direct to the city center, but some of them may not have such services, so you may have to look up what other alternative transportation arrangements you need to make. You may have to book a taxi or a Uber ride or a Sky Bus. It depends upon your budget and your preferences as well, but you need to book your airport pickup. Moving on to the next section, which is about packing. Now, first thing, when you are considering to pack your bags, you need to check the climate of the city that you are arriving in. Australia is a huge country and the climate varies from one city to the other. Some cities may have a similar sort of a climate, but there are chances that there may be some differences as well. For example, Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, Hobart, they get quite cold in winter. However, relatively Darwin and Brisbane is a bit more warmer. So you need to look at the climate of the city you're arriving in and pack your bag accordingly. Ideally, you should have a mix of both warm and cool clothes, but the quantity or the ratios will vary depending upon the city you're arriving in. You need to also bring some electronics such as your phone, laptop, iPads or other devices, and you need to make sure that some of these devices such as your phone is compatible with Australian network, as some of the phones could be logged to your home country networks, so make sure to check that out. Other things such as kitchen utensils, cooking equipments, linen and some other necessary items that you may need, you will need to pack according to your preferences. But I would suggest you to check out the prices of some of these items in your home country, and also you can do some research of the prices here in Australia as well. Look up on some websites where you can find the comparison of some of these prices and see if it's worth bringing some items or not. We've got a really good video regarding that on our website, so I highly recommend you to check that video where I give you a complete detail regarding the packing checklist for international students who are arriving in Australia. I also suggest you to check the Australian Border Force website where they list you the things that you should or you should not bring to Australia. They've got a very detailed information regarding that on their website. Again, the link of that you will find it in the description box below. Highly recommend you to check this website before packing your bags. Moving on to our next section, which is regarding health. It's important before you arrive in Australia that you get your health checkup done in your home country. And I'm not talking about that health assessment for the visa purposes. I'm talking about the health checkup you need to do with your own doctor. If you are going to bring some medication, it will be good for you to get the prescription from your doctor, as if you are bringing some medication, you will need to have that declared on incoming passenger card, and also you need to have a prescription for that. I also suggest you to do your dental visits. If you need some fillings or you need to extract some tooth out, do that before coming to Australia. As for international students, it can be quite an expensive affair to do that here in Australia. If you wear prescription glasses, I also suggest you to get a couple of pairs for them, as it can be a bit expensive to buy them in Australia, especially when you're just arriving here. And that was regarding health. We are moving on to our next section, which is about finances. First, in terms of the dollars you are bringing in. So it is ideal if you can bring some Australian currency with you when you're arriving here in Australia. Although, to be honest, not many people use Australian currency as much here in Australia. Most of the people use their cards, whether it's debit card or credit card. But when you're first arriving here, you might need to spend some money. And if you are bringing international card, it may be possible that they may charge you some fees for using that here in Australia. So that's why it might be a good idea for you to bring some Australian currency with you. When I first came to Australia in 2006, I brought around $1,000 with me. But hey, it's 2024, you might need to bring more or less depending upon your needs, but it's recommended that you should bring some Australian currency with you. Of course, if you have an international card which does not charge you any fee from your home country, you can bring that along with you as well, but make sure to check the fees involved when using that card here in Australia. The good thing is that you can also open your bank account before arriving here in Australia. A lot of banks allow you to do that before even your arrival here. And obviously there are plenty of currency exchange platforms that you can utilize also for transferring some money from overseas to here in Australia when you're arriving here for the first time. I personally use Wise. That is my preferred platform for currency exchange. If you would like to sign up, you can use the link in the description box below for that. But there are obviously many other platforms that you can choose from. So do your research, find out which one is giving you the best currency exchange rates and which one is more reliable as well. So here are a couple of other things to do before arriving in Australia. First one is regarding your work. If you are going to work here in Australia, then I suggest you to bring some sort of a work references or a work experience certificate from your previous employer in your home country. If you have got a plenty of experience in some skilled jobs, it might be really helpful for you to get that sorted before arriving here. Look, some employers may not consider overseas experience at all, but hey, you never know. So if you have worked in your home country, I would highly suggest you to get that work experience certificate or a letter from your employer. That should clearly mention how long did you work for, what sort of position were you working in, and some other relevant details regarding your work. Other thing I suggest you to do is to download some apps on your phone before arriving here. Some very popular apps such as Google Maps or even Uber or Google Translate, or relevant app for the transportation of the city you're arriving in. For example, if you're coming to Melbourne, then I suggest you to download Myki. It is the app for public transport we use here in Victoria. But obviously, if you're coming in different city, then you need to download different app for that. Now, we've got a free departure checklist on our website, which you can download for free as well. We will leave a link of that in the description box below for you. Make sure to download that before arriving. It will help you to check off some of those things that you might forget. And again, if you would like to book your accommodation before arriving in Australia, then check the Amber Student in the description box below. Now, if you would like to know more about things that you need to pack before arriving here in Australia, then I suggest you to check this video here, where I give you a very detailed packing list for international students. So I highly recommend you to check that video. So click the video over there and I'll see you there.